Join me as I talk with people who express their creativity in ways that can inspire the rest of us to recognize our own creativity. Why is it that when we finally stop trying to figure things out, that's when the answers appear? Amy Bloom and I talk about creativity and how it naturally shows up when we stop trying to force it.
Okay.
Hello, and welcome to Creativity Conversations. Today, after lots of attempts, I have the great pleasure of introducing Amy Bloom, who is the executive director of the Saratoga Arts Center in Saratoga Springs, New York. Hello, Amy, again.
Hello, Nina, again.
Yes,
Oh my
we've been
goodness.
dealing with some technical glitches, so we'll see how far we get. So I thought that Amy would be a great guest to have on because she has a very unique perspective on artists and everything art related as the executive director. So I have some questions for you, which is, since you've been the executive director, what has struck you about managing the Art Center and having the exposure to the artists and performers that you have? Is there anything that's surprised you or been different from what you thought it might be like?
Yes, I think what's different is a couple things, but the major difference is that the problems to solve at an art center are very similar to the problems to solve at healthcare organizations I've worked at, social service organizations I've worked at. Um, Even the personalities are similar. So I was a little concerned coming in because I'd done some fundraising in the art space, but I'd
Mhm.
never done any operational work in the art space. And so I didn't know if the skills I had from my prior career would transfer to this, and
Mhm.
they did. So that's been surprising. It's also been interesting to try to run an organization that has so many different kinds of stakeholders. So,
Mm.
the city owns the building, it's a membership organization. The organization's been around for 40 years, so it has a history and has different kinds of artists. Um, because it's an arts organization, it covers a wide berth. So you've got visual arts, performing arts, everything in between, education. So that there's a large mix of different stakeholders and constituencies. And so that's sometimes a bit of a challenge, but interesting. I think other surprises.
Let me ask you about what it's been like to work directly with artists and performers and musicians and all of the people that you come in contact with about their process of or processes of creativity. Has anything about that surprised you or enlightened you about the creative process?
Um, Yeah, what surprised me was the difference among them. So what motivates one set of artists is very different from what motivates the other. Um and it's always interesting to me to see how much artists divulge what their process is and what it isn't. Some of them are very tight-lipped about it, some of them love to talk about it. Um the language they use around their creative process um, sometimes feels like another language to me. It's
How
the
so?
Well, the way they describe use words to describe what motivates them, it feels like a language I never learned along the way. So I've, reading artist statements and them describing how they put things together, it's a little foreign to me. I'm not a trained artist. I mean, I'm a musician. I play the piano and I sang growing up, but that's pretty technical and um I guess trying to understand what motivates a printmaker or a painter or a sculptor is is different. And it also reflects the personality of the artist. Some artists are very articulate and love to talk, and other are very tight-lipped and really don't want to talk. So
Mhm.
that's been interesting. Um,
So let me ask you, with what is it that they have
mhm.
that the rest of people who are not artistic or creative, what is it that they have that sets them apart?
Hmm. I don't know if this is going to make sense, but they have a sort of otherworldliness about them.
Hmm.
So sometimes it feels as though they're a little bit like in their own world. I don't want to say aloof, but they seem like they're observing the world while
Hmm.
they're in it.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
oftentimes the rhythm to our conversations can be a little disjointed. It's like I feel like they're either studying me or trying to figure out how to put words together to describe what's going on. And I feel like sometimes with artists, they communicate better through their medium than they do with words. Some
Hmm.
artists are great at talking and writing. Others, it's just like looking at their work actually tells you a lot about who they are.
Yeah. I
Um, and I also feel like the other main difference is artists who've been in the gallery and exhibition world for a while tend to have a better ability to relate. It's artists younger in their field who are still sort of trying to figure out that part of the job, especially if you want to show your work in a gallery or you want to apply for a grant, is your ability to talk about yourself and talk with all kinds of people. So, some of the more senior or older artists definitely have the shtick and the spiel of, talking to non-artists down
Yeah.
pretty pat.
Yeah.
And that makes sense.
Yeah, sure. So being a musician, if I'm allowed to call you that,
Yeah, sure.
you have something in you that has been spoken to by the muse, if you will.
Hmm.
And how do you see that as the same or similar to how other visual artists or performing artists? Is it this? I know we all have our own particular muse, but is it the
Right.
same kind of urging or nudging that comes through?
Yes. I mean, I also write a decent amount. I journal
Uh-huh.
daily, if not more than that. And I've definitely written stories and things over the years. That's
Mhm.
my creative outlet. Um, it's funny for music for me, I was trained very young, very classically on the piano. And my mom was actually my first teacher, which was not a good idea. So, and she was a trained concert pianist. So it was very important that I learned to play the piano.
Mhm.
So I came from a place of, it was very strict. And for most of my childhood, I took piano lessons every week. I always had to play a piece from each, era, memorize everything, play it at the end of the year at a recital. I hated playing in front of other people. I still hate playing in front of other people. Um, so for me, music was less of an outlet back then and more of a like something I had to do.
Yeah.
Um, It was interesting. In college, I ended up deciding to take a break and take jazz improv. And that blew my mind because I had been taught for, 18 years, let's say, to read music. This was very different. And it was really hard. And I didn't like it. I stopped. And then I didn't play the piano for 20 years. And
Wow.
then when I moved here 20 years ago, as an adult, I started taking piano lessons again.
Mhm.
And it was the coolest thing ever. That's where I got my sort of creative inspiration around music because I had this awesome teacher. She basically kind of undid all the learnings from when I was a kid and said, if you don't like this piece, you don't have to finish it. And I was like, really? Oh, that's awesome. And what was fascinating about that is I actually technically became much, much better, much
Mhm.
more quickly
Exactly.
because I was playing what I loved. Um, so I played for a long time. I stopped when my work life got too busy and I wasn't able to practice enough, and I just felt like guilty. But it's funny when I am sad, depressed, frustrated, need to escape, the first thing I do is sit down and play the piano.
So that's really interesting
Or
because
I write. I mean, but if I'm stuck
yeah,
about anything, there are two things that make me feel better. One is writing, and the other is playing the piano.
it's still interesting
Yeah.
because there's something calling you to express something,
Hmm.
right? If that's, a way I could put words to it. And I wonder if that isn't similar to, I'm going to call you an artist, even though you may not want to claim that.
The staff might argue with you over that one, but that's
That's all right.
okay.
They
And the
just don't
board.
know
That's
you
okay.
yet. That's
Right.
all. But do you think that that's something that you share with other creative people? That need to express something in a way that is unconstrained and just allows you to let out whatever wants to come out.
Maybe. I think what's always in my mind set me apart from a traditional artist is that I'd never play for other people, and I don't write. I mean, I write occasionally and send it off, but that's mostly professional stuff. I feel like I do it for me, not
Mm,
for the.
yeah.
So I've always thought art was as much about showing your work to other people, and like the last thing I want to do is play the piano in front of somebody else. So
Hmm,
in my
hmm.
head, that was sort of how I sorted it. Like I'm not an artist because I don't
You don't want to go public.
well, I don't create things to I don't well here, I guess the best way I can describe it is I don't create things to share with other people.
Hmm.
I create things because they're meaningful to me. And
Sure.
somehow I see that more as an outlet than art, but I could be totally wrong about that. So,
It's so interesting because I think that initially it's that way for anybody who's creative, is that they
hmm,
have something that needs to come out in just beyond verbally,
right.
and there are so many artists that you hear about posthumously that never showed their work, that or never shared their music or their writing because they
Hmm.
did it for them and they weren't oriented towards the external world. That wasn't part of the ingredients of what they were doing. But I have a suspicion that that has made you more aligned with the artists and the performers that are at the art center.
Hmm. I definitely, I'm trying to think about it as well. I feel a sense of, I don't know, I want to say a moral core. I mean, as we were talking before, I was trained as a philosopher and focused on ethics for a long time in my healthcare world, and taught bioethics for a while. And I feel like what I care when it comes to the art center, I care deeply about the genres and in Saratoga in particular, I worry about the development that's happened in the town and that something like a community art center might get lost.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where sort of the passion around the arts and my connections to the artist really comes out. It's that, and my daughter went to art camp there growing up, and she's not an artist per se, but it was really important for
Mhm.
her as a being sort of well-rounded human being. I mean, that to go
Yeah.
back to like how I was raised, my mom's a collector of art. I'm somewhat of a collector. I love going to museums. Um, I appreciate it very
Mhm.
much, and I think it's people who either their kids or they themselves haven't been exposed to art are missing something. I think
Mhm.
it's an important part of being human. So, um, yeah, I guess I feel like my strength is that I can help And I did with this place that was, Saratoga Arts was in a pretty dire state when I came. And A, I like fixing broken things. B,
That's
um,
creative, just that.
no, I thrive in chaos. Like I really like coming into things and fixing them. And I felt this like I don't want my town to lose this resource, right? And I feel like it's harder and harder to stay afloat as an arts organization financially.
Mm.
Um, and the other thing I've learned in getting to know the artists at Saratoga Arts is how important not just the space, but the organization is to them, right? Like for many of the either more senior artists or that's where they found their place. It was sort of
Mm.
their home, right?
Yeah,
And then there's a sense of family that's been created where artists who are more successful actually come back and go to openings of younger artists and support them and talk about
mm.
what they were like when they knew that, so there's this community of artists that Saratoga Arts has created. And again, I feel like that's harder to foster nowadays.
Yeah,
And so I feel like that's also part of the organization's role, right? Is
yeah,
to not just represent artists, but to give them a place to hone their work, to meet other like-minded people,
yeah.
to have expose the public who might not otherwise know what a printmaking studio is. Hey, you can come take a look at it. And
You
um,
take a class.
so I mean, it's funny. I've never ever thought about myself as an artist. Like
Something
ever.
to think about.
I can add it to a bullet on my resume,
There
right?
you go. And this is actually leading up to a question that I wanted to ask you, which is, was there ever a moment, and I'm sure there have been several, where that have stood out to you, whether it's from students who've taken classes or artists who've shared their work in the gallery, where you have said, this is why the Arts Center matters.
Yes, I can tell you. It's funny. I was thinking about it when I was talking before. So a couple of years ago, before we closed, there was a show that Peter Harrison was in, and he's a brilliant wood maker. He makes all kinds of interesting furniture and found objects, and super talented. A member, shows in Manhattan, had submitted some work, and at the opening that we had, we were just starting to bring openings kind of back into the fold.
Mhm.
Um, Cecilia and Richard, so Fratelli and Lockwood,
Yep.
came, and I've known them forever from the craft world. And then another woman I know, Betsy Boland, who does fundraising for Saratoga Independent School, came, and they all came to support him
Mm.
because Cecilia and Richard remembered when he was so. Peter's probably, I would say, in his 40s. He has a couple of kids. He brought his wife and his kids. He was all nervous about his kids running around the gallery. I was like, it's fine. Um, but Cecilia and Richard were there because they remembered him when, and were so excited to see him and his glory. And then Betsy had grown up with him in Saratoga. And she was all excited and she was promoting the opening all over Facebook. And I thought, this is so cool. Like, this is what this place is all about. And so there was the sense of community and connection. And then the funniest thing was my mom, who is also a collector and has bought stuff at Saratoga Arts over the years, was reading his artist bio, and he had gone to Fieldston, which is a high school in New York City that my mom had gone to.
Oh,
That has the same ethical culture kind of gestalt. And so my mom came because she was like, oh my God, how great is it that? And so I thought, like, in that one moment, it was like, and his kids were running around and they ended up taking classes so that was Saratoga Arts
mm.
in a nutshell, right? It was all these people showing up to support this artist, and then his kids coming to camp. And yeah, I remember that and just being so excited that of all the worlds sort of collided in this
Yeah.
wonderful way. And
Yeah.
he was just a blast. Like he was great, and his work's fantastic. And what's interesting is I don't even know if we ended up selling any of his work, but the vibe, the energy was so great. And at that time, Saratoga Arts was struggling to get people to come in the door to feel like we hadn't forgotten about them. And
Mhm.
that was sort of like the beginning of feeling like maybe we were turning a corner a little bit.
Oh, that's so great. What a
It
good
was cool.
story.
It was cool. It was very cool.
So, what do you think that people who are outside of the arts community don't really realize about what's going on at the Arts Center? Especially now that there are more and more people coming into Saratoga.
Um, A couple things. I think we're still struggling a little bit to find our population around classes.
Mhm.
We've done some market research to hone in on that, but what's been interesting is Saratoga's community is growing with retirees who are coming to this area, and so I feel like that's our new target audience is people who have some time who are coming to Saratoga, who are either have done artwork in the past or just want to learn how to watercolor paint because they have time on their hands. So I feel like finding ways for people to know that we offer these classes to pretty much anyone, right? You can
Mhm.
be a successful artist or you can have never picked up a paintbrush and we're your place. So I feel like that is still a little bit unknown. The
Mhm.
fact that we have a printmaking studio and a weaving studio and the lower level, because you can't see it from the street, it's hard for people to know that it's there.
Right.
Um, I think people don't know, which isn't surprising because it's a little confusing that we're a membership organization and kind of what that means. So all the things we do, yes, they are important and they generate income, but our charter, so to speak, is we're supposed to have members. And so figuring out the what the value is to our members is definitely still a little bit of a head scratcher. I mean, for artists, it's definitely valuable. For the community, I'm trying to figure that one out. I think, why would you join Saratoga Arts? You get a discount on certain things, you're supporting an arts organization, but um, I think that, the importance of being a member is still lost on the community. They go, "Oh, I didn't know you could be a member. Why would I want to be a
Mhm.
member?" That
Yeah.
kind of thing. So,
That's, I think that's a good challenge to have
mhm,
because from my experience, I think that not just being an artist, but being around artists and being around art has a really profound experience result in how you see the world. And I think you were referring to this earlier, is that when you engage with a piece of art, something in you changes, something in you shifts, whether it's that your mind gets quiet for a moment and
mhm.
you're just focused on the experience itself. There are, maybe from a more mental health perspective, you'd say, yes, your mind quiets down, your nervous system starts to settle down, you become a little bit more present, less distracted to the world. But I think there's this moment when and I'd love to know your experience both as a writer and a pianist and a singer in your closet,
In my
so
cliques,
to speak.
exactly, or my
But
bathroom. Yes,
right,
exactly.
right. But something happens to you. Something opens up that doesn't have the space normally
Hmm.
when we're in our everyday getting our lists done or grocery shopping or whatever we're doing. But there's that moment, it's like a time outside of time where we're in this relationship to something that we don't really even know what it's doing to us, but it's doing something that feels good and we want to have more of that.
Totally. I think it's like that reminds me of if I've ever had like a professional or sometimes a personal problem or issue, the way, my generation was raised was, you keep thinking about it, you keep working on it, you keep fussing over it. nine times out of 10, as I've gotten older, I get up and walk away. It's like when you're writing something, you have to stop, close your laptop, put the pen down, walk away, go do something else entirely,
Yeah.
because then you can come back and you have a fresh set of eyes. By the same token, if there's a problem or something to wrestle with, I inevitably figure it out when I'm doing something else. I'm
Yes.
at the grocery store. I'm, vacuuming the floor, all it, but I need to stop thinking about it in order
Yes.
to figure out what's going on. And that's, I think, for most Western culture in particular, that's totally counterintuitive, right? You just like think about it, analyze
Right.
it,
Right.
have more meetings. And I've learned, you know what, all that does is make everyone crazy. It's like you're going
Yeah.
around, around, around. You need to go for a walk. Like do
Yeah.
something
Right.
to
Wasn't
change
it
your perspective.
Einstein who said that he would take a nap?
And
Right.
it's so true, and but I think art can be a big part of that. And
Yeah.
sometimes at work, if I'm just brain dead or whatever, I will go walk through the gallery, or I
Mm.
love to sit in the atrium. There's like a little
Yeah.
nook
Yeah.
where the column comes together. You can actually sit there and look out at the park. And there's something really nice about doing that because your brain sort of shuts down for a little while. You're just taking it all in. And then it gives me the, I don't know, energy, creative space to go back and dig back in.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's important. And in the same way, if I were home, I could sit down at the piano or pull out my journal and,
Mhm.
not
Mhm.
think about whatever it is I'm supposed to be thinking about. And then, it always seems better in the morning, as my mom would say.
Hey, you're letting the answers come to you instead of
Right.
trying to force them. And I'm sure, and I'd almost invite you to prove me wrong, but maybe not on this call,
Okay.
is that taking that time out
Hmm.
from the overworked brain makes you better at your job.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny. And what I've also learned about my job, like many years ago when I first started out, the culture was different too from a workplace ethic. Like
Yeah.
you had to sit at a desk from 9 to 5. And I was never very good at that. And I always thought that was a failing or a shortcoming because it was like I'd get bored.
Yeah.
And then in working in healthcare, working in startup, consulting, for a long time, the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years, I really never sat behind a desk all day. And I hate it. Like I can't do it. I can't pay attention that long. And I realize like I think there are a lot of other people out there who just don't say that. But whenever I've looked for work or done consulting, I'm like, if you want a button seat person, I am not your gal because I can't do that. And especially in fundraising and running an organization, you have to be out and about. Like
Yeah.
sitting in front of a screen all day, it's, I don't know. Yeah, I feel like I've intentionally incorporated that into my workplace. And actually, when we closed and reopened Saratoga Arts, I took a look at the employee manual, and it was so funny. It was written by my predecessor, but from a very old world space where you had to accrue sick time, you had to accrue
Ugh.
vacation time. You had a bank for one, you had a bank for that. I was like, oh my God, this is like I said, no, everyone gets 3 weeks of paid time off. I don't care how you use it. It's on you, whatever. And then you're done. And everyone gets to work from home for up to 2 days a week. As long as the gallery hours are covered, we're good. I don't, and the staff, I think, thought I was crazy in the beginning.
Not for long, I bet.
No. And yes, there's some juggling around making sure that hours are covered, but I really believe that's important. Like, I don't want you sitting behind your desk all
No,
day. There's no reason to. Like,
it's
if you
not good
want
for you.
to, be my guest. But most people need to get up, walk around, and you're
Right.
not productive 8 hours sitting in, like anyone who says, oh my God, nobody is.
No, that's
So,
that's the old industrial model of work and
yes.
productivity. But I mean, you look online and you see so many different talks and conversations about how sitting all day is bad for you. It's bad for
Yeah.
your body, it's bad for your brain. So I think you kind of have the best of both worlds at the Arts Center because you have to get up and move around. You have to go to the place to sit to look out into the
Yeah.
park. You have the luxury of, it's going to lead into my next question, of being able to look at different things and have different interactions and different kinds of interactions with administrative people and then the creative people. And so what, so given all of what we've been talking about, how would you answer somebody if they said, asked you, are the arts essential or are they a luxury?
Hmm. That's a hard one.
Oh, come on, it is not.
Well, the only reason I'm pausing is because the operational financial side in my head is
Forget that
worried.
part. Forget that.
Okay. No,
Just talk about the experience of it.
it is essential. I do think it's essential. Um, yeah, I think it's inherent in being a human being,
Mhm.
and I feel like people who haven't been, and as I was saying before, who aren't exposed to the arts and don't incorporate that in some way, shape, or form into their daily or their life are missing out. That it's I think more than anything, what I've learned, especially in the public health and mental health space, is that people communicate through art. And sometimes when you can't say it, you can express it through other media. And
Mhm.
that to me is really important. And so even, for the people like me who may not call themselves an artist, learning to express yourself that way is important,
Yeah.
really important. So yeah, it's essential. And I think the only thing I worry about is when you say something like that is essential, that there's some sort of exclusivity about it. But I think art and being creative can be whatever you want it to be, I mean, it's good to,
Is eating essential?
yes,
It's not exclusive. It's not an
no,
elitist activity.
no, no, true. So I think it's essential. I also think for a lot of people, I mean, myself included, learning about it and appreciating it
Mm.
is in some ways just as good as doing it, right? Because I think that chatted with the staff a little bit about that because they've asked me, well, what, you're not an artist, so how do you, what, I've agreed with them until I talk to you, but I love it, I appreciate it, I seek it out, I listen to it, so I think arts can be both for the doers and the appreciators, right? And they both are important parts of that system that makes a place like Saratoga Arts successful. Because a lot of the people who come into Saratoga Arts are not self-proclaimed artists, right? They want to see what's on the wall. They want to buy something. They want to meet somebody, right? And maybe they're never going to pick up a watercolor brush, but they know about it. They've read about it. They have a favorite artist, and I think those people are really important too. So long-winded answer to your yes, art is essential question.
Yes, I think that the more people, personally, I've seen this, that the more people are exposed to it, the more, if they're open to it, that they can see how many more activities in their life are creative. It
Hmm.
doesn't mean only a brush,
Right.
only a woodworking tool, only a loom. It's
Hmm.
what clothes you put on in the morning, what you
That's
make
true.
for dinner. And I think that exposure, the more exposure you see to whatever kind of art it is, or listen to, participate in, the more you realize, oh, maybe I do have a creative bone in me.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I also think it teaches open-mindedness and tolerance, right? Or appreciation of difference, right?
Yeah.
Because people communicate and are successful in different ways. And art is a great way to illustrate that, right?
Mm.
Like you might be a great lawyer and that can be measured in da 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 da, or you might really do really well in school and you'll get a 4.0. But those are very, unique ways of being in the world. Artists have a very different rubric for success, right? I mean, certainly they want to sell things but I feel like there's, learning to appreciate the brilliance of, I'm trying to think of Miles Davis, right? Like that comes from listening to him and understanding his work and that's incredible genius, right? Like ridiculous genius. That you might not is not the same as someone who gets a 4.0 in school or wins a case. So
Right, right.
different kinds of intelligence is sort of how I think of it. So
Mm. Yeah, that makes so much sense. And what about this? Somebody comes into your gallery, our gallery,
mhm.
and they see something brightly colored, a brightly colored sculpture or a painting, and they say, "Oh, I love that color red. I'm going to put that in my house somewhere." So they buy red flowers or they buy a red throw or
Mhm.
something where they're starting to look at color differently or
Totally.
light differently or sound differently. And there again, there's a wonderful book called Your Brain on Art that
Huh,
talks about what happens neurologically to your brain when you're exposed to art. So
okay.
this is a very kind of down to earth example of, oh my gosh, I saw this at a gallery and I loved that one thing. I want more of it. So you start to, and then as you do that, it changes your life. It starts to expand what you see, what you're attracted to that maybe before you went to that gallery never occurred to you.
Totally. I mean, I certainly think it's funny when you were describing this many years ago before when I had my daughter and I took some time off from work. I worked with a career life coach and I was sort of struggling to find my way in a research healthcare space that felt kind of old and tired. And so she had me do a series of exercises, collages, and in sort
Mhm.
of visioning. Um, and I remember she was trying to get me to articulate like what the ideal state would be for a future career. And I remember what came to me was I had this closet full of clothes that I could never wear to work. And I said, I want to have a job where I can wear everything in my closet to my job. And now I do. It's funny.
That's
I
great.
was in a career where it was like suit, and it was also a different time. We had to wear hose and heels and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, so I had this sort of work wardrobe, and then I had what I wore regularly, and it was really frustrating to me. And so I feel like, part of being creative and finding your space and professionally is also, I mean, I love that I can wear whatever's in my closet to my office and I don't have to think about it anymore. Like that
I
was
hope I come in someday when you're wearing something really wild.
crazy wild wardrobe, but I do like clothes and it's a way to express myself and, wearing a suit and not that I wore a tie, but wearing suit was not my shtick. So
Got it. I know what you mean.
yes.
Well, this has been so much fun. I'm really glad you joined me. One last question for you,
Okay.
maybe two, but
Okay.
I guess it's going to be two.
Okay.
So, what would you just say to somebody who says, "Gee, I didn't even know this organization existed. How do I find out more?"
Hmm. Well, I would say one, if you're in Saratoga, come on in. Two, check out our website. Um, Three, we have a pretty active social media presence right now. So for people who are scrolling through Facebook or Instagram, um, check out what we're sharing because the staff is younger and hipper, so to speak, than I am. And so there's just a lot out there that I think will entice people to come in and say, oh, I never knew you did that. Or, oh,
Yes.
that looks really cool. So it's a way to get a snapshot of what's going on in Saratoga Arts without like having to walk in and wonder when the gallery's open or check out the website and go, well, that's interesting. So
Yep.
they're sort of three different ways.
And then two more things. What is the website for the Art Center and
Okay.
also the
Yes.
newsletter? and the membership possibilities.
So the website is saratoga-arts.org. There are lots of different membership levels ranging from 35. I think we just increased it up to 1,000. The lowest level is for a student or artist. The individual membership is $50. And for a membership, you get a discount on classes, which is great. When you get to the higher levels, I think it's over 250 if I remember correctly. We just joined a regional arts organization, so you get a discount to in admission to other venues. I don't remember them off the top of my head, but there are quite a few. What was your other question?
Well, besides the signing up for the newsletter, which I guess as long as you go to the website, you'll have that option, right?
Well, and we don't technically have a newsletter, but we have an email list. So if you put your email, if you sign up, either if you're at the gallery, there's a sign-in book, and you put your name in or you sign up online, we will send you lots of emails. We usually send something out. I mean, if it's not every week, it's every other week, but it lists what's going on, what classes are coming up. We promote all of our shows. We have fundraisers and events, and I might even ask you for money every once in a while because that's part of my job.
And you have the film
forum, yes,
the
that
film forum.
we're on a summer hiatus right now, but in the fall that'll come back. So that's been a long-standing program in Saratoga that we were glad to bring back. So
yeah. So there's a lot going on there.
There is. Is.
Terrific. So thank you again.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Oh my goodness. It took a little while to get here, but we did it.
Anyway, well, thank you.
Thank you. And for those of you who are listening or watching, thank you for being here with us, and stay tuned for the next episode. So bye for now.